Well, Happy New Year, everyone, and we're here to give some really good updates and really kickstart into this new year. I mean, Sheldon, just jump straight into it. Thanks for joining us. There's been some really good milestones in the last few months, especially Dynex, HyperCycle, Neurable, 1 billion AIML with 10 press releases in 60 days, roughly, and really material ones. Perhaps across all those companies, give the kind of biggest update for each of those or biggest press release that came out.
Well, like you say, it's been pretty news-packed. Happy New Year to everybody. In perspective, 2025 was a transition year, a year of all our, key strategic investments making progress, in some cases slower, in some cases faster, but I believe they're all geared up for a commercial 2026. And at the end of the day, I think investors in this world today need to see tangible progress in companies. Promises, are promises, and people want things that they can measure and value, and create a model around. So we believe that that has been really set up the platform for all of that. I can just briefly, perhaps refer to some of them. HyperCycle is very noteworthy right now because of its ambition to be the Internet of AI. It's been making a lot of great progress technologically. It's launched its technology in, I'll call it phase one. There's going to be a number of phases that are going to roll out in 2026 that is going to make it extremely incentivized for people to join the network, whether their goal is to make income because other people are using the platform and the compute, and renting it, or buying, let's call it IP space. And then there's the whole concept of LLMs and others wanting to become smarter, and they engage in this Internet of AI, which is, I'll call it platform agnostic. So this is probably maybe the most ambitious project that we've been involved in. It's taken the time it has because of the complexity. And, you never know when you create a network effect, but if it does, it will move three's needle in a way maybe unlike any other investment, because it's going to be direct cash flow through our nodes, our master nodes, our tokens that are all married and basically have created what we call node factories. And through that, we just don't know when, the lights up in the way it should, but I believe we're getting much closer to that inflection point.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd start.
So the good thing is it's income producing now, but it should get even more income producing is basically what you're leading to there.
Yeah, I'd say that it has started with a trickle. Proof of concept is there. Now it's contingent on more and more people, companies, entities, really entities, because this is basically machine to machine entering the ecosystem. So we're very optimistic that there's going to be a big bang here. It's just waiting for that to happen. And I wish I had the magic ball, but we recognize even weekly how there is evolution. The company has been doing now frequent AMAs. So actually people can tune into them on Twitter, and listen to the conversations. Some of it's technical, some of it's not. The idea is for people to be able to have a node and not be technical to operate that node.
Yeah. And I mean I mean the biggest press release I mean, I guess we had there was obviously the South Korean JV, which was incredibly impressive, and the money involved there it proves that if anyone was in doubt, I mean, of the credibility of the project, I think that shows it, even though it's complex. And then, are there any others of those other few I mentioned? Would you say for Dynex it was kind of the Q3 update, proving concept there and increasing the NAV or the book value per share there? What would you say the biggest press release for Dynex was?
Well, they put out, I believe, a press release end of September, where they launched what they call Paragon. And for us, that was kind of an important step. So just to give you, our perspective, we're investing in an ecosystem that is developing quantum emulation. So quantum-like outcomes, but not with the high burden of very expensive machinery, power, cooling needs, and so forth. And it's been one of these things where they launched through an ecosystem of decentralized GPUs using crypto, and you'd have to basically use tokens to do all the quantum work. And they've, I think, published that they've done over 1 million routines. But the problem is that, crypto is not, engaged at and used on a widespread basis because of all the issues around security, around the fact that it's a token, it trades on an unregulated exchange, and so forth. So the big change of what they made was they're basically saying they're going to convert all their token holders into a security token. So right now it's a utility token that basically you use to execute what you have to do. And that is really a big issue around investors that really, they want to invest and they don't want to invest in a utility token. So the conversion, I believe, is going to happen sometime, or they're going to offer what it will be, we don't know yet, to token holders at the end of January, beginning of February, and then over the month of February, they want to convert the token holders to security token holders, which will mirror the equity in their private company. Nice. And they announced that they were going to do that, and in addition, they were going to I think do a go public transaction in the private company and become an equity company to attract institutional interest, be fully transparent, and they said list on a major exchange. So if we connect all the dots, they also announced that they've had third-party validation by highly reputable firms that have shown how does this compare to classical computers and other quantum. And in my view, the results are spectacular. So I think that the depression in our investment, because conventional investors don't buy crypto utility tokens that list on unregulated exchange. So I'm feeling that with the launch of their chip, they launched a chip called the Apollo chip in November at a McKinsey conference, and subsequently published a bit around that. Not the white paper, but just the explanation. It's pretty impressive that a user of quantum, somebody who wants to do these calculations and so forth, can rent space on this chip up in the cloud, and the company won't be selling its chips, from what we understand, and be able to do that today with multiple applications. Well, we're feeling that they are getting extremely close to commercializing this technology in a way that is an order of magnitude above what they were doing before. So,
Yeah.
all in all, we're expecting that Q1 is going to be transformational from a structural standpoint, and we're hoping that we're going to hear about potential customers that I
Normally
think are
wouldn't. Yeah.
testing and so forth. And I think what the legitimization of this as a real quantum company is going to have to come in real world customers solving real world problems.
Yeah.
And, those are the dots we're connecting to, and we're hoping that, that is what's going to occur.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think you make very good points about those pivots for both. I guess HyperCycle and Dynex have done similar things, and moving away from their token, but still rewarding those who had the token. And that, I guess, is just to bring more of that institutional demand and uptake, and it seems like that's happening pretty much immediately, which is very exciting. And actually a very good strategic pivot. I mean, we've kind of already touched on it. I mean, it's kind of those five companies you said there. What would you say are the holdings that are really going to move that needle coming into
Yeah.
this Q1?
So I can briefly, just because this is the end of year kind of,
Mm.
update or beginning of
Yeah.
2026. So I talked about HyperCycle, talked about Dynex. I'll talk about TODAQ. TODAQ is really making strides in its first killer app, which is launching basically its own independent streaming,
Mm.
where it's all peer-to-peer. Middlemen are eliminated. Creators get paid the moment the customer pays to rent or buy that piece of content. They have already launched. They're already getting customers. We believe that scalability begins in Q1. And obviously, that is really the network effect of what everybody's waiting for. But we're very encouraged of the engagement they've had so far, where they're going to go, and so we think it's the year for the creator to control the content as opposed to the intermediaries. And this is obviously was a big promise in blockchain, but this is blockchain-like, has
Yeah.
all the benefits of blockchain, but not the downside. So it's a scalable technology. So we're very, very optimistic around that. I can mention a company that we post about. It's not one of our top percentage ownership, but we believe that the outcome could be material for us. Is a company called Neurable, and Neurable makes headsets that basically monitor your electromagnetic waves in your brain. And this company, we believe, is going to end up being in a lot of the headsets that are developed by many of the big companies. They have a deal with Masterworks right now, and apparently Masterworks sales went up a few fold because of this feature. And basically what they do is they develop the AI mechanical software algorithm internally. So it's not a hardware play, it's more really a software play, and that it's being really let's call it engaged and partnered with. According to management, they've got a lot of partnerships in negotiation, and they feel that ultimately the brain, the final frontier, this could be a real stepping stone to arresting cognitive decline. It measures your focus. It's available today. It's about $600 or $700, and we've been using them in the office, and they're extremely effective.
Amazing, yeah. And I mean and then you've touched on pipeline there and sort of people they're speaking to, but they've actually closed 35 million in funding. They were, if you were active on LinkedIn.
I'm not specifically doing these in any hierarchy. It's just I thought I would maybe talk about some of the things I have not talked about in a while.
Yeah.
But AIML is certainly one that we think warrants people's attention. It's an overlooked kind of orphan company that people aren't sure what to make of yet. But I have a feeling this is the year. Last year, they had to file IP, they had to go to the FDA, they had to do some trials. They've done a shakeup of their personnel. All the startup issues that any company really goes through. Nothing unusual. But we believe that now, with some of the press releases that they started putting out in Q4, have set the stage for some extremely top drawer partnerships
commercially,
like with Sick Kids Hospital and so forth, that once these things get out there, there's more publishing and so forth. We think that the solution is going to, well, I'll say this. I believe it is probably the most disruptive change in medical diagnostics around the heart and ECG, EKG, PPG that there has been since the invention of these devices. And, with heart disease and heart issues being the number one killer in the world, it's actually mind-boggling how analog the analysis is, and how historical, how really obsolete these observations are. And listening to different cardiologists talk about what this technology allows them to see, basically the onset of the P, the QRS, and the T waves, things that they previously had no insight to because of the fog in the data. And really, we call that in the signal to noise ratio. So they have been able now to go in this cloudy artifactual world, go through all the noise and interference and identify the pure signals coming from your heart. So the integrity of the data, the information, has given the users now special insights that they believe are going to obviously help with heart care. And ultimately, not today, but, this is all AI driven, Hector. So everything is, you're developing AI databases, search mechanisms. They're going to be able to correlate, let's call it waveforms,
basically,
around this that lead to certain outcomes that will give them the ability to hypothesize or predict heart events occurring in advance. And we believe that that's where it's going. And the implications and ramifications of that are extremely big. And the players that would be very interested in this are all the top institutions in the wearable market, in the medical diagnostic market, in the pharma market, and so forth. So what we believe, this is the year that the evidence, and it's all evidence-based, will be on the radar screens of the decision makers. We understand big companies have approached them to talk about their technology, but we have to obviously wait to see if it meets the criteria for partnership. But management is extremely positive these days that the right people are paying attention to them. So I really believe AIML is going to have a breakthrough year, and the addressable market is quite large.
Yeah, just within that sector, those couple of things, but also pivoting even to other waveform levels. So that's really, really good. And you only got to think of every single person who's into fitness. Almost everyone I know who's into fitness has a wearable, and they're not actually accurate. So imagine that, and actually having something that's accurate rather than something that just gives you like a feel good pat on the back. So that's going to be really
and even you got the wearables, so people obviously are thirsty for data. So that's why there's been an upsurge in people wearing them. And their view is some data is better than no data. None of it is regulated, so there's no FDA approvals. You even have rings like Aura, which the cardiologists have told me, like, you can't even rely on the data, but people live and die by it because they're seeing it on a computer screen.
Yeah, they want to.
So I would say that AIML potentially has the ability to be the truth serum.
Yeah.
But for that to occur, we need the endorsement, we need FDA approval, which could happen in the first 6 months of the year. That's obviously big company endorsement, and then results of studies like, say, Sick Kids is doing that demonstrate the efficacy and accuracy of the data.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just add one other company that I know you're going to interview next week.
Yeah.
We've been working on for 7 years, and it's a company called Bullion. It's I think the largest landholder for mineral rights in the country of Botswana.
8,000 kilometers, is it, or something? Kilometers squared?
It's a very big number. They have a number of greenstone belts. They're the extension of the cryopan, which they mined 18 million ounces in South Africa, goes into Botswana, and this company has also the extension of all that. So in terms of gold play, this is, you could have a major mining company come out of the properties that are held in this company, and they finally were able to get public a week or so ago.
The TSX,
and I know you're going to interview the CEO. I encourage people to follow Bullion, so we have some exposure to the precious metals. We also have some other precious metals investments. That we think could do quite well. We have also Infinity AI, which is infrastructure monitoring using AI. They've been getting more contracts. So really the way that I've kind of view all this is that the life cycle of taking on a new investment, it's not instant gratification. It takes a long time. Yeah. And that's what breeds volatility and shares and so forth. Everybody's waiting for these breakouts to occur.
Moving on to sort of strategy now. I guess obviously being a volatile year, liquidity more and less at times. How would you say that sort of shaped your approach? Are you staying kind of defensive? Are you hunting new ideas? I know you were looking for new ideas at one point, or looking for new investments, or open to new investments, or are you kind of doubling down on these investments that are really, really popping off?
Yeah. So a good question. The approach that we kind of took in 2025 is we're just going to focus on the ones that we've been spending all this time on.
Yeah.
And in certain cases, we've been focusing on investing more in them, like Neurable, like Dynex, where we feel that, and TODAQ, where and Infinity AI, so forth.
I kind of tried to list the ones that is quite clear they're hitting milestones and you're doubling down on at the very beginning, because I think it's quite clear.
Yeah, and we feel that literally, because of our current depressed market cap, almost any move on one of these, could have strong operating leverage on the shares. Absolutely. And so, we figured, okay, let's just focus on what we're working on here. And, if obviously we get on a roll, then, we'll have the ability, to look at new investments.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even with 1 billion, when we were coming into that, well, I had some of those questions up here anyway, but that size, that land package, there's so many opportunities there, even spinning out some of those assets that's already been done. It's huge value to the company and hence you guys as well. But I guess with that latest bull run in commodities, I guess how does that really, where's the benefit for you guys? Where do you see that market going right now, kind of on a macro view?
Sorry, in commodities, are you saying?
Yeah, commodities, gold, kind of, and how that's going to affect Freely's holdings.
Oh, I think it's going to have a profound effect.
Yeah.
We have enough to move the needle there, but it doesn't your own individual holdings, aren't the macro holdings. So sometimes the timing is
The
different.
lag is there, yeah, but that's actually a benefit because it means that lots of people can catch these
Yeah,
plays even when they think they've missed the
right.
main asset. Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you been considering any natural gas, oil, anything like that that hasn't necessarily moved yet?
We do have an investment in a company that has a serious property in Hungary
Mm-hmm.
for natural gas, and Cancambria it's called.
Mm.
And they've really been able to get a lot of ground. They've done some 3D. It's been a longer process than I thought originally,
Mm.
because they were going to bring in a joint venture partner, perhaps
Mm.
even the government, and that kind of slowed down. But if they find natural gas in Eastern Europe, it
Mm.
sells for a lot of money because, of what the whole Russian
Yeah.
situation is with withholding it. So that's what interested us in this when we got involved, 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm.
So, but apart from that, I would say, we're mostly focused on technology.
Lovely, yeah. Well, it's just interesting because that's obviously things that haven't moved yet, but also some of where your serious comes from. I guess through these kind of risk on, risk off periods, I mean, what strategies have you been implementing? I think doubling down on the existing investments is kind of your answer there, but have you been learning new things? What are the strategies you kind of use? I mean, we're kind of entering now more of a risk off phase, but can you touch on those?
Well, I just think what we've learned over the course of the year, has proven that what our mix of companies here is right on course. With
Mhm.
we're dealing in AI.
Yeah.
When people start to drill down, and there's a lot of technical reports out on, for example, Dynex. Well, Dynex's approach can reduce energy consumption in the compute side substantially. It's sort of like an unintended benefit.
Mm.
And, with all this money going into data centers, there's
Yeah.
a real value proposition there. So the more that things are getting closer, like HyperCycle,
Mm.
I'm more convinced this is the right
Place
business
to be in.
model and
Mm.
strategy. And it's just now like, wait your turn.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of looking at this and saying, well, shareholders, we're just waiting our turn.
Yeah.
But when it goes, there's going to be interest that is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to come. It's going to be an avalanche. And when people but it's sort of like what we used to call crossing the chasm.
Mm.
When do you get to the point where everybody recognizes that this is enabling technology with huge potential, and suddenly the company becomes a unicorn?
Mm.
And that's what we're hoping for.
It's really funny you mentioned those two there because those are my next questions. I mean, one, just to recap something you said earlier, I mean, real attention. I mean, by taking their token kind of more private, but also maybe IPOing in Dynex's case, that means more institutional interest, and I think we'll get that. But something I learned in that hypercycle interview I had the other day is obviously everyone's concerned about AI and compute. HyperCycle has this AI, and obviously it's the internet of AI. Something I learned with Tufi is obviously learning can only ever increase, so it can't come back. But one concern I guess people would say is the sort of compute and data centers, and I guess Dynex actually captures that. So you've got these really good portfolio overlaps, where one has an amazing technology and another solves different problems you have, and we've seen it in the past with the micropayments as well. So we've seen a lot of portfolio companies come and go. Some perform really well, exits, which is fabulous. Are there any that maybe come and go that you think, in terms of attention and investment, that might come back in the near future?
In our portfolio?
Yeah, that maybe that have come, had some interest and then fallen back, or not been talked about as much again.
Yeah, I can't recall all the companies we've talked about. So,
Yeah.
we have a cybersecurity company that was kind of quiet, and now
Mm.
it's they're doing a funding, and they've gotten some real big interest, and
Mhm.
they're getting some contracts. It's not a massive position for us, but
Mm.
it's like these companies can end up being worth quite a bit of money if
Mm.
they have a profound technology. So
Mm.
that one's kind of bubbled up a bit. But generally it's the names that we've talked about.
Yeah.
I don't want to cast dispersion,
Overload. Yeah.
that this is happening, that's happening when it's not.
Hmm.
And but I post on social media where I think things are relevant to
Hmm.
look at and follow and read, like Dynex and so forth. They're not press releases that I put out, but they're just additive in terms of disclosure documents that we have found out there in the public domain.
Yeah. I guess a quick question and answer I was sort of getting from this is kind of what emerging themes, and obviously they're on the website for 3D on 3D's website, but it seems very much AI, decentralized, kind of blockchain, the wearable market, and energy are the four main kind of sectors across all of those different ones we've mentioned there. So that's obviously quite exciting, and that shows people where the focus is. Um, we've touched on it a little bit as well, but people often ask, like, how do we know when 3D in its portfolio or individual companies is about to kind of re-rate? What sort of telltale signs do you look for before momentum returns? Is it just those milestones and press releases? What do you look for?
Yeah, I mean, we are mirroring what we own. So, we put out, sometimes interviews with
Mm,
you, let's say the HyperCycle one, where people can have access, they can listen, but it's sort of like a groundswell where
mm,
you never know when it builds to the point of a crescendo that suddenly people go, shit, I want
mm,
to own 3D because it owns
mm,
node factories, as an example.
mm.
Or TODAQ is now up to 5,000 titles that it's announced that it's streaming. Well, oh, okay. Oh, and they own Toda Notes, and maybe that will add value. So this is where I feel like literally, the first half of this year, like if we have one, it could drive the market cap of the company.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very good point. And even when I was thinking after the hypercycle interview, obviously looking at my own investment in the company, but also obviously it's quite complex, but you guys have already been there, done that, kind of understand it very well, and also kind of there's levels as well to hypercycle, and you guys are at the highest level on those nodes. So that's obviously value add to then investing in 3D on top of directly to them. Are there any
Yeah,
kind of
the fact that the nodes have married,
yeah, yeah. Um,
fact that the nodes were married, everything, it
mhm,
was a good milestone. We're very happy with
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, some shareholders ask this as well. Can we expect kind of return of share buybacks or even maybe board members buying in the open market anytime soon? On any of the companies,
I
including
can't speak to board. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I can't speak to board members, but
Mhm.
I think that we have an approved buyback in place, but until, we're still helping to fund some of these companies. So
Yes.
while we're doing that, I'd rather the money go into the company than just into the shares.
Very good point.
But there's going to be, at some point, they're going to break away from each other where we're going to have excess capital and
Mhm.
then we're just going to go, okay, like this is stupid where our shares are trading,
Yeah.
let's try to, buy them back.
Yeah, I think that's very, very healthy because often people will try and market or try and move the shares when really actually that happens if you really sort out the businesses, make sure that they are going exponential privately and then publicly just follows anyway. So really good point. Last two questions here. Um, are there any other sort of misunderstandings about the company you think people get wrong, or maybe some people think it's quite complex coming in, looking at the company, but you'd like to somewhat summarize or clear up?
No, I just think that people are hopeful that all these companies we have are going to break out.
Mm,
And, sometimes people get frustrated that AIML puts out a press release and the shares don't go up. Well,
yeah.
we don't have control on things like that.
Mm,
But when, these companies actually start to perform, then there's tangible information and evidence, for 3D to go, and then it will all kick into motion.
absolutely, absolutely. And then I mean, obviously, this is two more questions. Sorry, one more. After kind of like that sort of volatile learning kind of year we've had in 2025 and come through out to the other side, how do you feel about this year and sort of the health of the company and its portfolio going into 2026?
Yeah, well, like I said, when you get commercial,
Mm,
the sky's the limit.
mm.
So I feel that we don't run these companies, so I can't tell you, any specifics on timing or
Yeah, no
probabilities or
problem.
any of that. Um, but just by all the things that have been published, it's close. It's
Mm.
closer than it's ever been,
Yeah,
and
that's amazing considering. Mm.
so I'm extremely optimistic.
Yeah, that's good because I guess people will then see the kind of disconnect and they wouldn't expect those words to come out of your mouth kind of right now, but this is then would tell people this is the best time to be buying. So that's fabulous. And then finally, sort of what's your message to long-term shareholders and what's the sort of catalysts, things they should really be looking out for in the next month, 2 months, quarter, 2 quarters?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've sort of said it in this
Fabulous.
interview. It's all about real world evidence, performance, catalysts that I could people are going to figure out at the same time I'm going to figure out. So, if we feel there's a disconnect in terms of information, we'll make sure that we find a way to get it out there into the public domain. Because with 3D, um, it's a very high bar for the company to put out just an update press release on one of its companies that made a press release. It's we are very limited in that, but through social media and through our interviews, I think we're going to be able to articulate
Mm.
why something is very special and that the value has increased. And so it's just waiting for mainstream events to engage.
Yeah, yeah. But also, yeah, and coming on here is really good. I think for existing shareholders, it adds that layer of transparency. We're here to address questions, and I think that's a crucial element of it for those long-term shareholders. So yeah, looking forward to the next one and looking forward to a couple of really big PRs. I'm following those big five that we started at the start with, and yeah, really excited. And keep everyone keep tuned for the 1 billion interview, well, next week. So awesome. Speak then. Cheers.
Hey, thank you, Hector. Good luck, everybody.